Welcome back to our live coverage of the historic events unfolding this morning in the Middle East. I'm Ali Vitali, and we're starting to receive images of hostages reunited with their loved ones. We gave you the news earlier this hour that all living Israeli hostages are now out of Hamas and into Israel and with the IDF. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum posted this image just moments ago of a released hostage with his wife and father. Another Israeli forum released this second image moments ago of a released hostage reunited with his parents. Those reunions finally happening after 2 years in Hamas captivity. We're going to continue tracking that. But it's against that backdrop, Jake Traylor, that Trump is set to give these remarks to the Israeli parliament this morning. Just before the commercial break, I was reading some of the excerpts that we just got from the White House. There's another one, though, that stood out to you, and it answers a question that we've been talking about over the course of the last 90 minutes, which is how will Trump speak to Israel at this moment from within their own parliament? I read before the break the way that he's urging Gazans that the future for them of safety, of prosperity, is now very much within their hands as they maintain this tenuous peace deal. What's his message to the Israelis? Read that excerpt.
Right, Ali. We were told heading into this, here are some things to watch. One, check for the emotional appeal that the president makes to Israelis, to Gazans, to people across the globe. Secondly, they said to watch the tonal balance and the balance the president attempts to strike between calling Hamas to peace and calling Israel to peace. As you said, you read kind of the reference that the president intends to make in these prepared remarks to Gaza and to the Middle East and to Hamas. I want to read this excerpt that seems to address Israel specifically, saying Israel has won all that can be won by force of arms. Now it is time to translate these victories against terrorists on the battlefield into the ultimate prize of peace and prosperity for the entire Middle East. And so as far as I've seen from some of these limited excerpts we've seen so far, this feels like the greatest call he's making to Israel and to their militant force to put down the guns. We know that later on in this peace deal, part of that is that that we see Hamas disarm. It's also that we see Israel pull away from their presence in Gaza. And I also think this is really notable too. The president, later on in his speech, makes this really interesting tie to faith, saying that and seemingly still addressing Israel, saying the God who once dwelt among his people in the city so calls us, in the words of Scripture, to turn from evil and do good and to seek peace and pursue it. And so we knew this was going to be a speech all about peace. We didn't know how much directly the president would address Israel, would address Hamas and Gaza. And it appears here the president, in a peaceful manner, at least in these prepared remarks, is attempting to say we are close to peace here. We are achieving it. We are reaching it. Now it is upon both of these enemies here to put down the weapons. And so I'm very curious, and I know you know this from all your years of covering Trump. Yeah. A prepared remark could look very different from the speech itself. And so I'm interested what the president chooses to put in between some of these prepared remarks as well. But it's certainly notable here that he is going to address Israel directly, telling them to, put down the weapons. It's time to translate from war and arms to peace, he says.
Yeah, these are carefully crafted remarks on purpose, right? Because of how tenuous these ceasefires have been in the past. I also think you're right to point out that excerpts are not necessarily hard and fast what the president is going to say. But again, because of how carefully crafted they are, you would imagine that the president is going to stay on these remarks in large part. I think the way that he's talking about this, speaking to both sides, both urging Gazans to maintain this peace, but then also saying the same to the Israelis, is notable and important. And